I think it was when Steven Spielberg's movie Schindler's List was released, we all realized that history is not being taught particularly well anymore. Many people were just surprised to discover that the Holocaust ever happened. Well, in a few days, it'll be the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz by the Russians. With me is Sue Ann Levy to talk about what this means, why it's important, and how we can think about the rise of anti-Semitism today. Why is it important to mark the liberation of Auschwitz?
Well, I think it's very important to commemorate it because, unfortunately, many of the survivors from the camps, whether they be Auschwitz or any of the others, are dying off. And we do not have a direct living memory of these people. We will not, in a few years. Many of them are in their 90s. And unfortunately, I think generations behind us will not truly get to hear the stories of what these people went through. And I think that's a shame. It's a crying shame.
How would you account for what seems to be a huge rise in anti-Semitism globally right now?
Unfortunately, Liz, and I cover a lot of stories on this, and I am myself targeted as an outspoken Zionist Jew, makes no bones about it. The anti-Semitism is coming not only from the radical right, the neo-Nazis, but it's coming from the left. So we're being squeezed by both sides. And a lot of it is couched in the criticism of Israel, the Zionist state, the Jewish state, and the people who criticize Israel are obsessed with the Jewish state. They say, oh, we're not anti-Semitic, we're just criticizing Israel because it has human rights violations. However, they're obsessed with Israel, do not criticize any other human rights violations in the world. And, many organizations, including the Canadian government, have come out and said now that anti-Israel propaganda or anti-Zionism can be equated with anti-Semitism.
That sounds divisive all around. All right, yeah. So what should people do to mark this anniversary? How should they regard it?
Well, I personally try to immerse myself in as many films about the Holocaust as I can. I don't think you could ever forget. And there are many new ones and many old ones. Even on Netflix, there are films. The Accountant, for example, is one. I also go to lectures, and I like to hear the few people who are left who are outspoken about this. I like to hear their journeys. And I think that, sadly, it's not being taught as widely as it should be, particularly in the United States. The Holocaust is being erased from curricula even, which is unfortunate. And, the result is that we're seeing people's memories have faded, and we're seeing not just a rise of anti-Semitism in North America, but worldwide. In France, in Belgium, in Germany, surprisingly, is one of the few countries that's not grossly anti-Semitic. England is another one. And many Jews are leaving these countries and going elsewhere. Paris is at a real problem now. So I strongly urge viewers and readers to take a look at some of these movies, remind themselves of what happened, and what can happen if you don't take into account what happened 75 years ago.
So here we are, it's now 2020. Did you ever imagine that we would still have to talk about this?
No, however, I did say to an interviewer a couple years ago that I feel more vulnerable as a Jewish woman in Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada than I do as a gay woman.
Interesting. Well, do you have an opinion on these matters? Do you have anything to say about this anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz? Please send us an email or pick us up on Twitter.